There's 5 truths of a violent encounter. This checklist is important, so keep watching. So the first truth of any violent encounter, you have to enhance your mobility, because the bad guy will always try to limit your ability to move, so they'll try and corner you.
As in have good mobility physically, but also environmentally to be able to escape where possible.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a criminal event, it could be social violence as well. Imagine you've got a bad guy, you're in an ego battle, you've got your back against the wall, back against a bar, back against a group of people even. You know, you are limited in your movement. Learn to fight where your back is against the wall, because you'll notice simple things like you'll bang your head against the wall when they hit you.
I'm sure, because people are going to use that wall against you.
So a good scenario to train is always with your back against the wall, but you have to incorporate that into your physical training for your self-defense.
They want you to be disadvantaged because they want to win. Nobody's trying to fight you fairly.
Yeah, absolutely. So mobility is key. So that brings us on to the second truth of any violent encounter. There's no warning when it happens. So the answer is be aware of your attack cues, understand body language. That will give you some indication that an attack's coming in. You'll get a warning. But if you want to start to understand pre-attack cues, take note of how people stand, how they move. Look for the obvious signs.
If you're assessing that somebody looks like they're ready to attack, you need to already be knowing where and how you can move. Again, the mobility factor.
Another preventative issue is situational awareness. Be aware of your environment. At least if you have some awareness of your environment, you can preempt potential problems. For example, choke points. But take time out in your day to observe the environment around you. Look at how the street actually maps out. Look at the way that people transverse through that street. Try to understand the baseline behavior. And if you only take 5 minutes a day, you'll find that eventually it'll become second nature.
This is something that can become automated in your head if you practice it enough.
The constant theme is you have to have access to good mobility, because obviously that equals to your safety.
You don't want to be realizing, oh, all the pre-attack cues are coming alive, I can see them, and there's nowhere to go. What's the third thing?
You're more likely going to be attacked with weapons. So the first skill I'd start to work on is developing an understanding of where people are likely to draw weapons from. You can take time in your day, look at the people around you, try to guess where that person may be holding a weapon or carrying a weapon, and even extend it further. Try to think about improvised weapons. What weapons could you use that will help you balance the situation?
Also, you've covered in previous videos how a weapon is concealed and whether you can spot it just by the way the person's behaving. You know, they might have something in a pocket or in a belt loop, and can you spot that before a weapon's presented? Because once it's presented, it's almost too late.
If someone actually approaches you with a weapon out, that's a very different scenario to a weapon draw. Try to develop an understanding of how people carry weapons, the way that they use weapons, but more importantly, in the way that they draw their weapons. The next truth is multiple assailants. You are more likely, again, to be attacked by multiple attackers who have weapons.
Right. So again, this is a way a person or persons weaponize themselves and give themselves advantages, not just physical weapons, but by being in numbers.
Defending against multiple attackers is dangerous, but there are certain tactics you can learn. Funneling is one tactic, is how to use your environment to deal with multiple attackers. For example, doorways. Great ways to actually funnel people where you don't actually have lots of people attacking you directly.
Because they've got to come through this doorway, so you're limiting their mobility in a way.
Exactly. What about between two parked cars? So you've got two parked cars, you take a centre ground between the cars.
So they've got to come through
a narrower gap to get through. Okay. So, using your environment, looking for natural obstacles within the environment will actually help you. So whether it be cars, whether it be doorways, whether it be whatever it is, big bins, objects basically, that makes it very difficult for people to come at you directly or even behind you and surprise you. I mean, you're always going to be surrounded, but the more open the space, the worse it is. So learning how to get people lined up or in a line or around themselves is one thing. But the most important thing is mobility. You have to be able to enhance your mobility to be able to deal with multiple attackers.
And being aware, again, of your environment and that mobility you have to ensure that they're not behind you, that they're not getting to a point where you can't see them, because then you're losing control, which you already have such a limited amount of because there's multiple attackers.
Get used to identifying where you could stand, where you can move. That would make it very difficult for multiple people to attack you.
And last but not least, where are we likely to end up when multiple people attack us?
The last truth is on the ground. Now, we speak about this all the time in self-defense training. You don't want to go to the ground, but it's highly likely that you'll end up on the ground. The reason being is you're more likely to trip over, especially if you're trying to run. And if you're faced with multiple attackers, they might kick your feet out from under you.
Because they want to take you to the ground ultimately. I know that a lot of people, especially in things like jiu-jitsu, think, well, if I'm on the ground, that's where I can best exercise my martial arts skill.
The perspective in self-defense has to be, can you fight on the ground to get back to your feet? And in the process of doing that, can you fight on the ground, taking into account that you have to deal with weapons and multiple attackers?
If you're on the ground with one guy, another guy is going to be able to kick you in the head.
Exactly.
Your most valued asset, if you will, the piece of your body most vulnerable, your head, is down on the floor. That's the worst place it can possibly be.
The answer has to be you have to incorporate weapons training and multiple assailant training in your ground fighting. So the takeaway is mobility is key. Your movement's going to be limited. There's going to be very little warning of an attack, but more importantly, it will involve weaponry of some sort.
And all of these factors are just ultimately the person whom is attacking you trying to gain advantage, because weaponry is already an advantage for them, isn't it?
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
they've limited how much you can move, they've given you no warning, so they're surprising you with the attack, and they are weaponized in some way, that is ultimately in their advantage. And it's all about trying to put you at a disadvantage so that they can win.
Self-defense is a multi-pronged skill set. And the better you are in different areas, the better you'll be at self-defense. But mobility is key. Thanks for watching.